Here's the thing. When you start to doubt yourself, let's say that you start running a paid game. You think, oh, I'm very excited. But then you maybe have some players complain. You get some negative feedback. You get a player quit and another one joins, then another one quits. You start to think to yourself, am I doing a bad job at this? Do I actually suck? I thought I was doing good. All my friends told me I was a great GM. I've been running games for years, but then I've got these issues that are popping up. It doesn't mean I'm a bad GM. And this can start a self-doubt cycle. But when you start doing this, it can be really easy to then try to correct it by chasing player appeasement. I think this is always a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea even in non-paid settings, but it's actually an especially bad idea in paid GM settings because it creates a scarcity vibe and it's kind of gross. It's like you're chasing money instead of chasing value in the game, right? Hello friends, welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're discussing the 5 biggest lessons about D&D or TTRPGs in general that I've learned while running paid games, okay? I have been running paid games. I began my paid GM journey back at the beginning of the year. We are now in March, so I've been going at it for a little over 2 months, and I've learned some really crazy lessons, not only about running paid games, but also about D&D in general. The purpose of this channel is to empower game masters to run better games. And these 5 lessons have really helped me, I think, to break through to new levels of the game, not only in the paid GM format, but also just running games in general. And I want to share them with you today. So let's dive in. Start with number 1. You're not playing with friends when you run paid games, so it might take a while to find your people, okay? This is actually a lesson that has caused me some frustration, and it took me a little while to kind of understand this concept, I think. So here's the thing. When you're playing TTRPGs, there are many reasons why people would keep playing with you, like when you're running games. They might continue to game with you because they love your games, but there's actually a lot more binding glue than that. Sometimes people will keep gaming with us not necessarily because they think our game is awesome. Maybe they don't even think your game is that awesome, but they may continue to game with you because you are friends, or they may continue to game with you because it's very convenient. They've been doing it for 3 years. And so, yeah, maybe finding another game that's more exciting might be an interesting prospect, but are they willing to give up that familiarity? Are they willing to give up that time with their friends? That might keep them in the game, right? So when we're running games for our friends, there are a number of binding glues that keep the games together. But when you're running paid games online, which, just for the record, I'm running paid games online via StartPlaying games. You can find a link to my profile down in the description if you might like to join me in a game or check out my game listings. But when you're going into that arena, you're gaming with people you don't know. They're strangers from the get-go. And the only thing there is, the only binding glue that exists is actually the style of the gameplay and the experience of the game itself. Now, that might change if you do develop friendships with these people. That might change as you continue a longer running campaign and they grow greater stakes in that adventure. They may be more likely to stay. That's another binding glue, right? But keep this in mind that it might take you a while to find your people if you start running paid games. This is also true in real life. I have noticed that sometimes people will join, play a session or 2, and leave. There's a certain element of this where you want to self-examine, see, am I doing something wrong? But there's also a really, honestly, significant element of this that can be boiled down to, if the game just isn't really, really exactly suited to them, they're probably going to leave. And the reason is because, especially if someone's paying to play, they're paying for a very particular type of experience probably. And with no other binding glues in the works, if they're not getting that at your game, they're probably going to leave. This doesn't always mean that you're doing a bad job, but it does mean that finding the people who really mesh with you might take some time. But when you find them, you're going to know it. And it's going to feel really good, and it's going to work really well. It's a very natural thing. I also want to let you know that I manage an online Discord, the GM Philosophy Discord. Link to that is in the description. It is a free place for game masters and lovers of TTRPGs to come together, talk about the game, share tips, share advice, post their problems, interact with others, even find players, find game masters, right? Enter contests, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I'm in there talking, looking for video ideas, getting people's opinions on video topics. It's a really awesome place. If you have not joined the GM Philosophy Discord, friends, link to that is in the description. You can do it today for free. I would love to have you in there. We're almost 600 game masters strong at this point, so feel free to jump in there and join us. I think you will have a blast. Lesson number 2, staying in love with the craft is essential, okay? When I first started running paid games, I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to get to play more D&D than ever with more people, and it's going to be great. But then some of the problems set in. You've got players complaining about things. You've got churn happening. People are joining and leaving. You're trying to keep the story, the game together with some revolving players while your core players are sitting there like, man, why don't we get these solid like other members? We have new people every week. Like it can be a little bit frustrating, and it can be very easy to let that creep in, especially if you like are trying to do your best job possible. You're trying to improve as a game master. You might put a lot of pressure on yourself to think, man, it's my fault that this isn't going so well. I have to really fix all these problems. And then that can pretty soon creep in, and it can actually cause you to really overthink the game itself. I've had this happen a little bit, and I've had to learn this lesson sort of in a lot of arenas in my life. But with running paid games, I definitely dabbled in taking the problems a little too seriously, letting them impact my love for the game. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, and I really believe this, when we're running paid D&D games, I do not believe we're providing a service to people. I think that's the wrong way to describe it. What we're doing is we have built a community, a game table. And what people are paying for when they sit at our table is they're paying for a place at that table. They're paying for access to the community that you have built. And if it's a good community for them, it would be in their best interest to stay. If it's not, they're going to leave. And that's all there is to it. Now, this actually is important because when we stop thinking about running paid games as a service, we start thinking about it as fostering a community, then a couple things happen. Number one, it becomes really important to stay true to what we believe about the game and stay true to our principles instead of trying to just appease the paying players. I think this is the correct path. I think we need to stay true to ourselves. And I think that trying to chase player appeasement for money is the wrong path. But that pull is where the stress can happen. We can be tempted to want to please players because we want them to stay, especially if you're doing it for some reason, like you need the money, like you're thinking, oh, I might build a career out of this. Then that can get very stressful, okay? And I also want to say that cultivating a good love for the game and making sure you retain that for yourself is going to do more to make your games more enjoyable than most other things you could ever possibly do trying to appease your players. I believe that when game masters are having just as much fun running the game as players are playing the game, you're going to end up with the best game possible. I truly believe this is the case. I believe this is what we should aspire to. So staying in love with that craft is essential and it's really important. Now, I've been playing D&D games for over 2 decades. I've been running games for over 20 years. If you want to hear my in-depth tips, philosophies, secrets, tactics about how I run emotionally resonant games, the things that I believe are the most important, you can download my ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. It's available right now for a low introductory price because this is my newest book. Make sure to grab it before the price goes up because I'm getting ready to release some new projects soon. Link to that is in the description. Grab that if you want to see exactly how I can conceptualize running games that my players will love, running games that my players will get emotionally attached to and want to keep coming back to. But with that being said, if you're not careful and you start to chase player appeasement or succumb to the stress, this can lead us to the third biggest lesson that I've learned running paid D&D games, which is doubting yourself creates negative spirals. So don't do it. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you start to doubt yourself, in D&D, like let's say that you start running a paid game, you think, oh, I'm very excited, but then you maybe have some players complain, you get some negative feedback, you get a player quit, and another one joins, then another one quits. You start to think to yourself, am I doing a bad job at this? Do I actually suck? I thought I was doing good. All my friends told me I was a great GM. I've been running games for years, but then I've got these issues that are popping up. Doesn't mean I'm a bad GM, and this can start a self-doubt cycle. But when you start doing this, it can be really easy to then try to correct it by chasing player appeasement. I think this is always a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea even in non-paid settings, but it's actually an especially bad idea in paid GM settings because it creates a scarcity vibe and it's kind of gross. It's like you're chasing money instead of chasing value in the game, right? Now, this also can create a negative spiral where you stop loving the game because you're stressed, and then your game suffers, and then more players leave. I truly believe that this cycle happens. I believe that I've seen this happen in a limited way in my games recently. I also believe that I recognized it, and when I recognized it, the way to put a stop to it was by quitting the self-doubt. And I believe I was pretty successful in that, and that helped my games to get a lot better. This is going to be true whether you're running games for your friends or running games for paid, people at your table. But the truth is, friends, this is true all across the board in life. This is true in dating. This is true with money. This is true with, your career. This is true with making friends. This is true with leadership, right? When you trust yourself and you do your best, you're going to get the best results. But you need to believe in yourself in order to make that happen. If you start doubting yourself, that's going to seep through. It's going to cause you to chase, hence desperation, scarcity, which is going to give people a weird vibe, man. It gives people a weird vibe. We can't be chasing like that. However, that does lead us to a really important question, which is, what do you do if you refuse to doubt yourself, but you're actually doing a bad job? Where do you find the middle ground? Isn't there some room for self-reflection, right? And there is, you're right. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. And this is a delicate balancing act. And here's what this point is titled. It's essential to learn from your mistakes, take accountability, and remain adaptable. Just don't follow this into self-doubt. And the way that you achieve this is pretty simple. You do want to have positive self-reflection. You want to look at what happened in the game, and you want to decide if there was actually an issue. If there was actually an issue, then you would just want to make a plan for how you're going to solve it next time, right? Just make a simple plan. For example, I realized spotlight control was an issue in some of my games. So I made a simple plan to fix it. I was like, I'm just going to switch the camera scenes faster, and I'm going to see if that helps. This is a very simple plan. There was nowhere in this plan where I was doubting myself. Like, oh, I suck. Maybe I'm bad. I need to be desperate, go chase solutions. No. This is between me and me, trying to make my games as good as possible, trying to improve my skills, right? You see what I'm saying? There's a difference between positive self-accountability, adaptation, evolution, improvement, and self-doubt where you're chasing and desperate. Those are two different things. So we do want to learn from our mistakes, take accountability, and remain adaptable. We just don't want to dip into self-doubt while it's happening. And this leads us to tip number 5. If you truly want to make a full-time income running paid games, you probably need to go further and do different things than just running online games through platforms like StartPlaying. StartPlaying is really awesome. I've got to hand it to the makers. Like, I don't have any sponsorship from them or anything. I just use the platform, and the platform works really well. And honestly, it's not a bad marketing tool. I get new gamers through StartPlaying games every week joining my games, and I have almost 3 full games right now. They're not all completely full, and I have other games that I'm wanting to fill, but at least 50% of my gamers, and some of them being really long-term gamers now, have come through StartPlaying. And the StartPlaying does a great job processing payment and all this. But here's the thing. These types of online marketplaces, they're going to limit the amount of money you can make because there's a sense where they're a constant bidding war, right? People might be looking for the lowest prices they can get. You're going to do a much better job of being able to earn more money running D&D games if you go to places where there's not as much competition. The thing about StartPlaying is that it is full of GMs who are all competing for the same players. It is nothing but competition. So obviously that's going to drive down prices because it's a more competitive atmosphere. Whereas if you take your game maybe live to like your local game store, or you launch local games at your house, go to business networking and invite people to play, you're going to be in an environment where there's not near as much competition. Your prices are going to be able to go way higher. I personally think that the answer to making more money running paid games is probably running in-person games more so than online games. Now, I do plan to pursue this myself at some point. I have not pursued it yet, mostly because I don't have a great space for it. And I have not yet begun the process of like maybe looking outside of my own home as a place to run games, like maybe finding external locations where I could run paid games. I do plan to deploy that this year at some point. I haven't done it yet. I've only been running games online, and I'm just telling you that if you actually want to make a full-time income running games, you're probably going to have to dip into something different than just running on StartPlaying. But with that being said, StartPlaying is a great place to make some decent side money running games. And, if you're out here looking for a side hustle and you're into D&D, that can be a fantastic way to get started fast. You could literally be running paid games within a week, getting paid to do the thing you love. Just like when we go back to point number 2, make sure you stay in love with the craft. Don't just chase the money. Make it all about the money. Okay. And there you have it. Those are 5 of the biggest lessons about D&D and TTRPGs that I've learned running paid games. What do you think? Drop a comment. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion. Have you been running paid games? If so, do you mirror these? If you've been running non-paid games, do you still find that these comments, these tips, are they true in your games, or have you discovered something different? I would love to hear it, friends. Empowering game masters to run better games is the goal here at GM Philosophy. Make sure you join our free Discord. Link to that is in the description. I will see you awesome people on the next one.